G'day, 24th of April 2026, which means 8 months left before the next Christmas Eve. My name's George, and I'm delighted to present to you today's edition of Message of Hope. It's 8:41 p.m. on a Friday night in Boise, Idaho, in America, of course. Well, a 68-year-old pizza delivery driver, his name is Simpson, pulls up at the door with a pan pizza. That's double pepperoni and a 2-liter bottle of Diet Coke. Do you drink Diet Coke? Let me know in the comments. Or you prefer Diet Pepsi? Now, except the Diet Coke isn't from Domino's. You see, Dan's store ran out of it. He tried calling the customer, obviously got no answer. Anyway, so he pulled over, walked into a convenience store, bought the Diet Coke himself out of his own pocket and drove it to the door like none of that had happened. Brian Wilson, not the singer of course, answered the door and heard the simple explanation, "We were out of Diet Coke, so I stopped at the store." Wilson offered a bigger tip. Dan waved it off. $6.60 it was, he said. That's a good tip. He mentioned that he'd been at Domino's for 14 years and was retiring in 26 days. That's less than a month to go. Now, Brian's wife, Katie, had the Ring camera running all this time. So she posted the footage on TikTok with the caption, "The world needs more Dans," and I agree. Guess what? Over 3 million people watched it. A GoFundMe raised more than $150,000 for Dan's retirement. But here's the thing Brian Wilson said afterward that I didn't know. He said, and I want to get this right, exactly right. What Dan didn't know is that my wife and I are both visually impaired. Not blind, but visually impaired. Yep, legally. Katie Wilson is legally blind, okay? She cannot drive at all. And Brian's restricted to daytime driving only. They both had a condition called retinitis pigmentosa. Big word, hey? Well, it degrades the retina over time. And a quick trip to the store for a soda, that's not a simple thing for the family. Of course, Dan didn't know any of that, but he stopped at the store anyway. Okay, on a personal note, a few years back, on a Thursday afternoon, a group of us were outside a busy train interchange. We were handing out gospel tracts. There were other people nearby working the same foot traffic too. Someone running a charity, giving a sign up and trying to hit a quota, by it seems. And so he came over to me. He said he'll help distribute the gospel tracts if I sign up with him. One more sign up and he'll be done for the day. I said no politely. And I saw him, he went back to work the crowd. Eventually, not surprisingly, he got his number. And I saw him rushing, heading for the platform with a big grin on his face. Now, I don't say that to judge him. I don't want you to see that. Because he had a job to do. I understand. He needed to make an income. Right? He probably relied on that for the day to eat. But the contrast, that's what stayed with me. A man who would help spread God's word, if there was something in it for him, yeah, think about that. And Dan Simpson on a busy Friday night, 26 days before he retires, stopped in a convenience store for a couple he's never met, with no quota, no deal, and no idea what it would mean to a woman on the other side of that door, and who herself cannot drive to any store at any time. Look at the contrast, hey? I mean, Dan could have said to himself, "To hell with the soda, because I'm leaving anyway." Now, I think Dan is, you got to agree, right? He's an exceptional worker. And I have to tell you that a contrast put a mirror in front of me. You got to be realistic about life, right? Because how many times have I done the right thing only when someone was watching? How many? How many times have I held back because I couldn't see what the return would be? How many? And there's a version of doing good that is always quietly transactional. Now you'll be surprised how far it gets into the church. People play church games, don't they? And I'll be surprised how as far it's gone into me. Me, sad old George. No. Oh, if you're finding this series very useful, I'd love it if you subscribe. There's a new episode here every day, and each one picks up where the last one left off. That's my promise to you. Okay, so as you know, I've come to my favorite part, the Bible verse. And today, Paul wrote to the Colossian church. So have a listen to this. It's Colossians chapter 3, verses 23 and 24. Whatever you do, work heartily, as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as a reward. You are serving the Lord Christ. Whatever you do. Not whatever is impressive. Not whatever is being filmed. Not whatever your quota requires you show up. It's whatever you do. You work heartily as for the Lord. So, if you recall, Dan Simpson, as it turns out, knows something about this from the other direction. He tells that he's 24 years sober, and he served his time in jail, I imagine. Got sober, went back to school, and has worked steadily ever since. Is just delivering pizzas at night is his second job. His main job is as a seeds analyst at the Idaho Government Department of Agriculture. He's been doing both because he spent years trying to catch up financially. I've always tried to be a pretty nice guy and help people out, he said, because I know what it's like to be down and out. He's someone who went through a couple of things in life, by the sound of it. I reckon he's got some compassion in him. Anyway, and then after all of this erupted, the TikTok, the GoFundMe, the $150,000 he's still trying to believe is real. Yes, that's how much money they raised for him. Dan said something I want you to make sure you hear. He said, I believe the good Lord is blessing me just before my retirement. So he wasn't taking credit. He was acknowledging the source. And that is a man who has lived something, not a man performing. He was just being a person he would decide, quietly over 24 years of being sober. So whatever you do, please work heartily as for the Lord and not for the men. And this is the motivation, this is the commandment almost, for me to give my best in these videos. Dan was doing exactly that. So at 8:41 p.m. on a Friday, with no camera crew, no audience he knew about, certainly no GoFundMe he could imagine. And I said earlier there that there have been 2 occasions in my career when I gave a job offer to a friend instead of taking it myself. Yeah? Both times I felt that the friends needed it more than I did. I had enough confidence that I'd find something else. Sorry, there were a lot of cars coming through at that time. Yeah, and my confidence was right. I did find jobs because God allowed it. But here's what I actually carry from those moments. It's not the outcome. It's the feeling of releasing something without knowing how it would resolve. So there was no recognition, no newsletter mentioned, right? Just the act of letting something go because it seemed right, with God as the only reliable witness. That is a different kind of doing good than the man at the train station was offering me. It's a different motive and it's a different audience. And friend, I think we know the difference in ourselves, even when we pretend we don't. So here's a question I want you to sit with honestly. Is there something you've been waiting to do for someone? Is it until the conditions were right, until someone was watching, until there was something in it for you? I don't know, only you know, and I can't judge. I don't have the full context. Maybe that thing is small. Could be a phone call you've been putting off, perhaps a favor that costs you an hour, or showing up somewhere on a day when it's genuinely inconvenient. And when you do things when it's inconvenient, it shows a lot of character in you. Maybe it costs you something real. Like I said, Dan didn't wait until he knew who was at the door. He didn't wait until the soda run would be noticed. He just stopped at the store on a busy Friday night, 26 days before he retired. As for the Lord, that's what Paul has commanded us. And the TikTok caption said it plainly, the world needs more Dan. And she's right. But I've been thinking about why, and I don't think it's because Dan is extraordinary, to some extent. I think it's because Dan has stopped waiting for permission to be faithfully ordinary. 14 years of Friday nights, one soda, zero audience he knew about. And that is what Colossians chapter 3:23 looks like when it pulls up at a stranger's door in the dark. Hey, Dan didn't know Katie was legally blind. He didn't know what the delivery would mean to her family. He didn't know there 3 million people were about to watch the video. But God knew who was at that door. Yeah. And friends, God knows who you're standing in front of today too. The question Paul was asking, the question Dan answered without knowing he was answering it, it's simply this. Whose audience are you playing to? That's a great question. Well, thanks for being with me. It's continued to be a really good stretch of unbelievably good weather in Melbourne. I'm going to enjoy it. I hope you do the same, so take care. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.